everyone. It's the April Finance and Shared Services Committee meeting. I have with me here Dr. Chanley, who stepped out for a second, Dr. Lehman. I have Mrs. Allen here, our BA. Joining us tonight is Dr. Peck, Mr. Piro, and filling in for Mrs. Fabiano is Mrs. Ratner. Mrs. Sharma is running a few minutes late. And we also have here Michelle from the Food Services Department, and the first item on our agenda is for Mrs. Scheller. So please, all yours.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Ms. Bora. So these are some highlights. If you just want to kind of look through them. These are some of the things we do every day in school. This is just a little glimpse of the first few months of school. We've introduced dumpling noodle bowls. We always have a nice holiday dinner. We have Fiesta cilantro lime rice with chicken, and then for opening day every year, METS provides for all the staff in the high school columns a nice breakfast for all staff and faculty. New this year, and raised with students' funds, we had a senior sunrise for the students. They had breakfast in the morning and watched the sunrise outside. And it was very nice on October 14th. In fact, it's tomorrow, May 1st is decision day. And for decision day, we're baking fresh muffins for the students and coffee for the seniors as they make their college decisions. They're going to join us for breakfast. We have a new breakfast program at two schools, Mill Lake and Woodlands. That's just a little picture of the cart when we started it. The high school is offering an a la carte breakfast this year on Fridays, and they will be serving they'll be part of the breakfast program for next year because 4 more schools will need to join the breakfast program. We'll have a total of 6.
Just
Yes,
really
that's
quick, the breakfast, is that only for students who are mandated to receive it, or
No.
any student at Mill Lake and
It's,
Woodland?
it's for purchase too. So it's $2.25 for purchase, and free and reduced receive it for free. Opening meeting, just sharing a little bit, you could read through that. We have a lot of long-term associates. Our food service associates tend to stay. It's a nice place to work. They work really, really hard. Sometimes when we hire new ones, they don't realize how hard the work is in the kitchen. They don't last very long. Sometimes they make it through a day or two and then they leave. No, unfortunately, because it is very hard work. Just an example of, we do 15-minute trainings every day, all schools. Pre-service meetings, this would be a little topic about hand washing. METS has a company called EchoSure that comes out and does even a more thorough inspection than the 2 health inspections that the schools receive. We meet with the students regularly. We really enjoy doing that and getting their input about the meals program. This is just an example of the student liaison committee meeting that took place in November. We have another one. I welcome you all to attend. I think Dr. Chanley sends out and
we have, so the June one, I think you're providing a similar situation, and this is something we do, I'd say 3 or 4 times a year. Children love it. It's a really great opportunity to get feedback. We always make the joke, we will never not have enough napkins now in last lunch.
That's correct.
They really, yes, they talk about salads, they talk about everything, and the food is excellent.
We also meet with all the other, we call them the outer schools, but we meet with the K-5 students too. We meet at their schools. We have committees, wellness committees that we meet with. We have just some nice comments that I included in that for you to take a look at. Those are true comments from staff. Holiday lunch, and back to those meetings with the students. They're called youth advisory committee meetings. We meet regularly and get student input about the meals program. And on the back, some of the support team from METS that help us make all this happen. Okay, I guess we'll jump right in now to the renewal for next year, the budget, the 25-26 budget. Okay, so we took historical data from this school year in preparing the budget for next year. I'm just going to speak about the current budget that we prepared. So the guarantee will increase from 3% at 3% from 105,000 to 108,000. The current index rate is 2.5%. The state requires us to use that. For the management fee, they cannot exceed it. So the management fee will go from 77K to 80,000 K for the year, 80,050. We put some breakfast projection, sales, revenue costs associated with the program in the plan. Labor cost goes up a little because of CBA. We have to abide by it. So it's up some. We projected a modest 3% food cost increase over current year. I mentioned at the pre-finance committee meeting that unfortunately local food for school funding goes away next year on October of 25. And that's nationwide unless anything changes. So for this year, we were granted $40,000 to spend on only local produce, and there's a bit involved. You have to send in all your documents to show the farms that you're using that are local. And we have a balance of 26,099 to get us through October 25th. So October 2025. The local produce is great when it's in season, which is usually in the summer when we're not here, but it's also in abundance for us in September, October. Now, May we start to get heirloom tomatoes from hothouse tomatoes. Even asparagus is on the menu tomorrow, fresh roasted asparagus from a local farm. And June, so May, June, September, and October is when we really take advantage of those funds.
Do we have to spend that 28 by October?
Yes,
And it can only be used with local farms?
only with local farms.
So you don't see any issues with being able to do that?
No, and we use a purveyor that utilizes many local farms. There's many that, and they're specified for school. They have liability insurance and things behind. We just can't go to a farm stand and buy things. We go we use Chickadee Farms out of Pennington, New Jersey, Element Farms. I've heard some of them. They give you little cards even for when we do tastings with the students in the elementary schools and such. But we do use also, who's on that list is an East Brunswick farm. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Piney's Farms. We use Piney's. And he's even going to speak this fall at the high school with the environmental committee.
Oh, wow.
About farming and about composting and things like that. So it's a very nice program. I'm hoping that maybe they'll expand it or and not cancel it, but it really is due to be canceled. Unfortunately, October 2025. Okay, so all of that said, with a 25% price increase, we are still significantly below other districts in the area. But Ms. Bora did request data, so I know that Nancy sent you all out the one sheet, right, with price comparison. She requested the data to see, do other districts over the years, the past, I guess, few years. That's why I handed another one because I gave a third year, but we'll look at that one, I guess, next. So year on year, like last year, 23-24 versus this year, 24-25, you can see, yes, Monroe did have a 35 cents increase. I put a little column of the increase in our price over year on year, 23-24 versus 24-25. Manalapan 15 cents, South Brunswick 35 cents, Marlboro 25 cents. Spotswood 15 cents, East Brunswick 55 cents, East Brunswick, 20 cents at Metuchen. So the two districts that didn't have any kind of increase year on year were Cranberry, who's already at $4.50, which is a very high price, and Jamesburg's at $3.90. So if we take a look at the other form, I only just handed out tonight to everyone. The increase from 22 to 23, I put a little column just to show you 23, 24, Laura, sorry, that's my view. Monroe, 10 cents, we went up. Manalapan, 60 cents. Cranberry, 25 cents. West Windsor. So do other districts, and you can read on, do other districts raise their meal prices annually? The answer is yes. And we have to react, I don't want to use that word, but we have to keep up with the rate of inflation. Our prices are still the lowest of all the districts in our area. And I actually have colleagues that in Bergen County, all over, Morris County, we're in Middlesex County, the Southern District down in Salem, and, their prices are higher than us. So to provide the district with that, with $100,000 or more at the end of the year, it's essential that, if you think about it, I just want to say it in the question, our food cost should be at 40%. That means I should be able to make that $3 meal in the elementary school for $1.20. It's not easy when a milk carton alone is 35. Now it went up to 37 this year. 37 cents for just the milk. And students K to 8, they drink a lot of milk, which is good. They like the chocolate milk and skim, but so they drink a lot of milk. The milk alone, just think about that. So then the rest of that plate, minus 37 cents, we have to come up with a protein, a couple grains, fruits and vegetables. So we do take advantage of all the fruits and veggies that we can get and product we can get from the government for participating in the school lunch program, but we also use a higher quality product here for our kids. We want to provide all white meat chicken. We don't want to provide for, and that's what keeps the participation going up. They come back for more, they like it, they give us good comments. Very important. And we want to provide them with the quality items, right? We want to keep doing that. That's why I'm hoping the local food for school continues too, because we could do all these great fruits and veggies for the kids. And I will share, if we were to not raise it 25 cents, if we put in the calculation in the formula on that sheet, a 20 cents increase would get us to 86. Guarantee, 86,086. 860.
With a 20-second,
With a 20
cent
cents
increase, you would get
yeah.
us to guaranteed 86.
The guarantee would go to 86,086. So think about every nickel of increase equals 21,972, about $22,000, believe it or not, is a nickel. For every, yeah. So if we went even lower to 15 cents, the guarantee would come down to 115. Now,
And
a 20
the
cents.
guarantee for this year was 108. Is that right? The guarantee for
108, 105.
He's saying it's additional.
Okay.
This year would be, if we add the quarter, it'd be 108 for this year, for 25, 26, the upcoming year.
And if we
Yeah, so
don't add the quarter, it
for-
takes us down.
Starting September with the new prices, if I'm comparing to, and tell me if I'm seeing this wrong. Last year with the price increase, our guarantee was 105.
8,
Why do I see 108 here? In both these sheets?
That's for the upcoming school year.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah, that's the plan for 25, 26.
this is with the 25-cent increase?
Yes,
Correct.
that would be 108.
108.
Yes.
If we don't increase anything, what is it that we're looking at in guarantee? Is what
Yeah, that's,
I know you don't want to
no, I'm gonna
think
share that
about it,
with
but I
you.
would like to hear
A
that.
negative $1,800.
Negative
No price.
100 without increase. And we're not factoring in the 40,000 in grants that we were getting for 2 years, which.
That's
was not-
factored in with that.
It-
Well, no,
So we won't have that,
We
so
won't
does that
have that either.
1,800 get worse? Negative 18?
it could. Yes.
So I guess, obviously having that guarantee of income is good, and I know budget wise, we need everything we can get.
Well,
But, but
it's not part of the general fund.
it's not part of the.
No. So it doesn't offset costs from our general fund.
Okay,
It is a self-sustaining program.
So these numbers
What's the
are
guarantee
revenue.
then?
That's our revenue from this program.
right,
The guarantee from the company that we utilize, that we
Yes,
charge a certain amount of money.
it's the profit loss, it's the bottom
It's a
line.
profit loss, which is a loss
Also
without
called a
any
guarantee.
right. I guess just like thinking about it, I obviously would never want to see a position where we're losing money. I would just be knowing that we raise prices, and if we have to raise them in order to provide similar services,
Yeah.
you know, of course, we do what we have to do. But I would just, with something like this, where it's, you know, nutrition for kids, to raise it, also raising the amount we're getting as a guarantee, I could go both ways on it, you know?
Did you
That
have
makes
something?
sense.
Yeah, but there's more to it than
There's
this.
more to it
There's
than
more to it
those
as far as
numbers.
the district's
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah, so in
That doesn't
addition
include-
to Matt's,
Correct.
that's the Matt's, we, have, additional costs. We charge, custodial staff that is strictly
Okay,
working in the cafeteria.
Just completely appropriate.
During, the time that they're working there, during the school year. As well as, repairs and maintenance on equipment. Right. We purchase our own equipment, and small wares and such.
So those go out of our operating budget.
No, they go out of the same fund, enterprise fund. the food
Okay,
service-
okay, because
But if
we
you
can't
don't-
use this for others,
Those
whatever
costs
we're
are
making
associated
here.
with the food service, it's still within the food service, but.
You have to
not
make
within the-
money to offset the cost. If you don't have the money coming in, you don't have the money
So
going
this
out.
labor here does not include custodial staff, it's just the labor in the cafeteria, the food staff, it's not the custodial staff.
Correct.
Equipment maintenance is not in this, so what I'm understanding is the 108 that is guaranteed with the 25-cent increase would help offset for custodial cost,
Yes.
custodian staff costs.
Maintenance
and
of the
cost.
actual, right.
If we don't increase by 25 cents, if we don't increase at all, we are at a negative $1,800.
Yes.
So we would not be able to support the custodial staff and any maintenance that could come up from this enterprise. It would go from operating budget. Now, am I saying it right or wrong?
No, we wouldn't go from operating budget. There is some amount of surplus, but when that's gone, there is nothing. And then we would, if we had to transfer money from the general fund, or the budgeted item to transfer.
Yeah, so that's what you find, so that's what that.
The point of this conversation is just to understand the data with every
Absolutely.
situation. So if we don't increase, that's what we're looking at. And one more question before I open up for questions for everybody. The comparison sheets that the board members are looking at, I believe that is executive attachments. Can this be made public?
I don't see
This
why.
data, can this be made?
I would say yes.
Because I don't feel, it really is information that the public needs to see to understand where we stand as, they can hear me say it,
Sure.
but I'm not reading these numbers and looking at data is different. So I would want this to be done before the board meeting,
Okay.
because, after we discuss here, this is gonna be up for discussion and vote in the full board meeting. So I would appreciate if people who listen to this curriculum meeting can go back into the agenda and look at these price comparisons. Actually, all of the data that is public, any of this data that is public related to this conversation should be uploaded in the administrative content part of our agenda. So that not just board members, but public that has questions on this, because
Well, the data speaks for itself.
it does.
I mean, it's right here.
But we want everybody to see the data.
Absolutely.
So the conversation here, and I'm sorry, did I interrupt you or were you done with what you had to share? Right. So the conversation here tonight is that Monroe is still the lowest price district in terms of our meal prices. And we have a recommendation to increase the cost by 25 cents in elementary, middle, and high school, which would make elementary $3.25, middle school $3.35, and high school $3.35.
Correct.
Even when we do that, as per the data shared with us, we would be the lowest price district.
Still.
And this data will be available to the public. If we don't do that, this enterprise will not have any projected income. If we increase it just by 10 cents, we have a projected income of $64,000.
That
If we
was
increase
15 cents.
it,
And that would bring the prices to 315, 325, and 325. But that would be 64, 114, 115.
yes, and if we
15
increase
cents.
by 20 cents,
It would be 86, 086.
okay. Let's talk about this. I would love for you all to share your thoughts on what you've been presented. Jamesburg data is here, so.
390.
I'm sure Dr. Peck is thinking, I'm gonna go back and ask them to reduce our prices.
about it, but it's the same thing where you need to still have that backup of money for a broken fridge or equipment
Absolutely.
that,
That
and
happens.
it was, plus or minus, and so we stayed steady at 390 for a while, but, it's been 390.
Ms. Shapiro, Mrs. Sharma, any thoughts on this?
No. Mm,
I'm okay with anything.
I don't think 25 cents is a very big increase when you look at other districts compared to us and,
I agree.
um,
So I'll share what I told Ms. Schaller the other day, when she came up with it, and that's why I asked for more and more data to help me feel better. We increased by 25 cents last year, and we are one of the unique districts in that list of districts that is been at the disadvantage of lacking equalization aid, and our taxpayers have supported the majority of our school budget. We don't give full day kindergarten. There's a lot of things that our taxpayers don't get. And so some areas we compensate, and a more reasonably priced lunch could be one of those, not insignificant, but an area that, and in current economic times where everybody is feeling the pinch, like we cannot, talk around it. It's a fact for everybody. We are moving towards really desperate times. 25 cents a meal does mean something to taxpayers. While I, as a board member, can see the need for it, like the data speaks for itself, I honestly feel that we cannot go without an increase because we will be at loss.
Right.
Do we go to 25 cents, or do we find a way to stagger this year over year, given that this is such a bad year? Maybe we do a little bit less this year, or just do it, rip off the Band-Aid, do it one time and not talk about this for a few years. But we increased by 25 cents, and we're back again having this discussion. We did last year, we're back again having this discussion, even though as bad the year is, it's a discussion we need to have, given what we're looking at. So, we're not making any decision tonight. I would like for the entire board to deliberate on this before they vote. I'm sure you could put it on the, I'm not sure how we go about this. If you put it on the agenda with this number, then it's a yes or no vote.
Correct.
But if we allow for the board to discuss the number and come to a consensus as to maybe we go lower.
Then I believe they can make a resolution.
Oh, we can make a recommendation as this committee.
Resolution.
Come to a consensus and make a recommendation as committee. Does everybody feel comfortable?
I mean, I'm fine with it. My only concern was I don't want to raise it more than what, like, I want us to cover our costs, absolutely. So like, including the cost of the additional things aside from that. So, it's not a big amount, right? But, every little, like you sort of said there, we don't want to increase everything. Like, I know there's other things that because it's just the economy, it's what's happening. But if we need to increase it in order to cover the expenses, then that's, what we need to.
I think I would explain it this way. If we increase it by 25 cents and our guarantee brings us to 108, it's comparable to what our guarantee was last year at 105. I'm just thinking
Right.
numbers. I'm not thinking about all the different comparisons. I just want to speak in layman terms for people that aren't into
And
that.
that's good,
the
that's
cost.
good.
So just as a person, okay, so you say we're running it like a business, right? So
Yes.
what was your guarantee last year? Our guarantee was 105.
Yes.
And what will your guarantee be next year? 108. So it's $3,000, which is negligible. And in order to get that, it's 25 cents.
Right.
So that is why that would be my recommendation. That's a very logical, clean way of looking at it. Just to make it easy for everybody to
It does.
understand.
And
That's
if we
way
don't-
easier than looking at 30, 40, 460. It's, that kind of data, although I do think we should give it. I do think we should give it, because there's some people that love
No,
it,
yeah,
and they love to find the data, and they want to look at it.
Yeah, all the data. will
But
help
for people that are,
justify
right, for
actually
people that are like me, on the bottom line, what does it mean? It means to keep it status quo within $3,000, which is negligible, at over 100,000. We need to, the 25 cents is what gets us there.
Yes.
That's how I would say it.
Does the committee feel
that make sense?
comfortable moving ahead with the 25 cent recommendation, or do you want to move ahead with a lower recommendation?
I think I'm fine.
I think I'm fine, we should move and make a decision.
25
Why
cents.
drag around
$1
and discuss and find out from the board, 25 cents is nothing. We are looking for, as
Compromise.
Dr. You explained it very well, because people look at the numbers. If we post all the numbers ahead, they're gonna get more confused, more questions asked, and again, decision will not be made. It's only 25 cents. And we're taking care of the kids, of the parents will understand.
Well, I like the quality of food. One of the things that was brought up on more than one occasion is, because the concept of white meat versus, let's say, we'll utilize rib meat, if that's the right term. Not that there's anything wrong with it, because but the difference in quality, the students want that white meat. There is a difference when they go to eat it. And, I love our lunch. I stay out of the lunchrooms because it's just, you could just gain weight because the food is quality. It really is.
Yes.
So
And
I agree with you.
to your point, we do use, we use it's called the red line
Mhm.
for Tyson, which is Tyson's white meat, all white meat chicken. It costs more,
Mhm.
but, we want to give a better quality product.
Well, I can tell you that my boys love it.
I bet they love those.
And they like double lunches, so
Wow.
it wouldn't be 25 cents for me, it would be 50 cents
yeah.
a child, but they're well fed and that matters, they're growing boys.
We just recently brought in like a chickenless nugget for the little ones. At the meetings, they brought up that they wanted, there's a lot of vegetarian students afterwards with Morning Star, and it needs a CN, child nutrition label. We can finally bring it in, and that was why we couldn't bring it in the past. It didn't meet the guidelines. But now the guidelines are, it now means it. So we listen to the students, we give them what has broad appeal.
Could I just ask, one question? What, like, high school, middle school, and then all the elementaries? What's the most lunches purchased? Would it be high school, the middle school, or all the elementaries?
Yeah, that's a good question, Peter.
Just curious.
Let's see. The elementary, if we combine them all together,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
they're pretty
combined.
high. They're higher than the middle. And then the high school is the highest just because of the population.
Right.
Because my other thought process would be, when you look at a lot of these, the elementaries is a lot less than the middle and high school. So like if I was thinking 20 cents elementary, 25 middle, 30 high school, or just something that, because if you look at a lot of these, a lot of them are, 20,
Yeah.
30, 40 cents difference between the elementary. And do you get, what I mean, the elementary is a smaller portion probably than,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering if
Why
that's why the other districts do it like that. Is that
Yeah,
the
good
elementary is less money than,
That's a good question.
like the high school,
The high school portions are larger.
A very-
the middle school
very
is
nice.
larger. And
Yeah, so
we've always had those three tiers. And
Yeah.
last year, I believe it was Mrs. Fabiano made a recommendation because portions aren't that different from middle and high. So
To keep it consistent.
we made it consistent middle and high school price.
Yeah.
Where a lot of the schools are, if you look at middle and high, are
So we would have
South
middle and
Brunswick.
high.
I was just wondering if we did like 20, 25 and 30, I mean, the high school would be 5 cents more, but I feel like what you give a high school student for $3.45, you're gonna spend, if you go get the general child, you're spending $15 at the Chinese restaurant. You come here, you get a beautiful.
we give the middle school we really.
No, the food is up.
We give the middle school the same products. We give them the
Yeah.
general sows and the same chicken
I'm
tenders.
just wondering if that'll help
But
cost
maybe
wise, if the most bought is the high school and that was 5 cents more compared to the elementary, that might help you like build a bigger surplus too, to, in case something happens or. And just a thought.
I guess you'd have to figure the it's an excellent thought. You figure the
It is a
calculation.
good idea.
If you figure the calculation, as long as it's not a loss, and the 105 becomes 108, even the 108 might become 110, or it might be 109.
What are we willing to go up to for high school, so that we could give her some sort of a
I
baseline?
would just say 20 cents middle, 25 high school, instead of 25, 25, 25, 20, 25, 30. And that's still 25, 25, 25.
So your calculation wouldn't really change much.
It won't really
No,
change.
it could based on her meal count,
Yeah,
because the meal counts, if it's
That's
different.
really going, oh yeah, I guess based on the meal count.
It
you're
it
right.
is based on the
But
meal
it
count.
that's why I was
resulted
wondering
in
what the meal plan is, if that.
I don't think it's going to make it
but how much
I just didn't want to say you did double the elementaries and we made it lower, then high school's less than your.
This year, the middle school and the high school are the same price.
Yeah.
They are.
Do you know which schools, like, if there's more kids that buy second one, because my
High
kids
schoolers
all
buy
the time,
double
is that
lunches
more?
all the
Is it-
time.
Like, do you have that data where they're buying like a second meal, out of curiosity?
The middle school too is pretty,
So it's pretty much
pretty big on that. Not so much the elementary.
Oh, so just my son, then.
That's right, my son is like the ring.
But it is due to the state by the 30th
No.
of May.
Okay.
That spreadsheet has to be approved with board minutes by the 30th of May, just an FYI.
Hmm.
Yeah, we need board minutes, right? It has to be uploaded.
So I guess my only concern is if we, it's a good question or a good comment, but if we do that, do we have to come back to this committee again? That's the only thing.
No, I would, I want to also think of it from a parent perspective. And this way giving the same impact to all parents, no matter what.
Oh, so you keep it the same price regardless of whether you have a high school student or an elementary student?
You're getting the same difference in your, on your pocket.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're public fiduciaries too, so we don't want to make elementary parents happy, but high school parents unhappy. No matter what we
Keep it the
do,
same.
we are going to face criticism on this. It's natural. But that's why I wanted to share these numbers, so people can look at other towns' numbers and see that we're not running a business, profitable business here. We're just trying to balance our books.
And you can share it, and for someone that wants to, if this question comes up at the full board, I'll just explain it like I explained it. And then it solves the problem. Anybody who likes numbers and wants to look at it, and it is very interesting to see the difference in cost though in comparison to our neighboring districts. I mean, we love Jamesburg and they're one of us, but they are more money than us.
But the thing is that we all know our grocery prices have gone up, the labor costs have gone up, everything has
Everything's
gone
more
up.
expensive.
So if the lunch prices are going up by 25%.
It would not be unexpensive.
If we had surplus in our budget to manage that, to not have to worry about that, it would have been another situation, but. So I'm gonna say that this committee is going to push forward the recommendation that Mrs. Schaller has brought to us tonight. I also wanna give you a shout out for this beautiful presentation. I did ask Dr. Lehman that this be available to all board members, because only the ones in the committee are seeing it. You do a great job, and for those board members that don't have kids in the school system, they don't really hear firsthand. I do.
She does a fabulous job, there's no question.
So thank you for your time tonight, and we will see how the vote goes on Monday.
Okay, thank you.
So
Thank you.
If you send that to me, I'll have it.
Yeah.
I will,
Yep.
thanks.
Next item on the agenda is the preschool, oh my God, can we not talk about rate increases one by one, but, I'm sorry. The next item on the agenda is the preschool integrated tuition rates increase. And I did say increase, I took the fall for you, but you can do the explanation, Ms. Allen.
Currently, there is a very, nominal hourly fee for this program, for the preschool integrated, program of $8.22.
An hour.
And the program provides a classroom setting where there's a certified, preschool special education teacher along with paraprofessionals. They meet 5 days a week for 2.5 hours a day for the whole school year. So again, what we're charging right now is $8.22 an hour. So we would like to, ask the board to increase that amount to $9.86 an hour. That would help to offset some.
So I'm a parent of a 20-year-old son who did this program when he was 4 years old, and I paid the exact same amount of money. So 16 years ago, I was paying $8, and parents are still paying $8. So when I first heard that number, I literally did, raise my eyes and roll my eyes, like, how could we have not changed that price? So from,
I guess Dr. Lee, can you just explain just what
Sure.
integrated preschool?
Sure.
Yes.
So,
I was just gonna talk about
We have students with individual needs, and they're required to attend public preschool. It's a half-day program, it's a 2.5-hour program, but part of the program that they're required to attend is a integrated program. So in order to provide the integrated students, we service, it's approximately 35 to 38 students, pre-K students each year. Parents can register to attend the program. Transportation is on their own. They pick up and drop off. It's been a relatively consistent number. And it's something that actually the state monitors, whether we have the appropriate students with IEP to students
Ratio.
in the general education program ratios. So it's important that we keep the cost competitive, extremely competitive, because we want to make sure we can provide the appropriate environment for our learners. So
Do you ever have a wait list for it, or usually?
We have a wait.
Oh, yes.
Always. You gotta apply early or you don't get it.
Yep.
And that's why we want to have this conversation, because we do want to be always respectful of our fiduciary responsibilities, with recommendations of what we approve, but we also have to live in the real world. You cannot get a babysitter, a teenage babysitter, or, what's a teenage
For
babysitter?
$9 an hour.
It's impossible. And it's a quality education certificated teacher, and we feel it's warranted, we're trying. It's unfortunate that we don't want to do everything at once, 25 cents here, 80, whatever it is. 80, 90, whatever, 75 cents there. But at the same time, it's something, the reality has taken over that all these course, you know, we don't want to lose money.
Yeah.
No, that's what it comes down to.
If I remember correctly, we do run the Falcon Snatch program in a high school, which is part of the Working with Children class. And that program is free, lottery-based. So, yeah, you know, we're offering two really great programs, and the need is there's a wait list for both of them. And of course, parents, when they get in, are trying to get into the Falcon Snatch, but I think that does start later in the year. So they've got to make a choice, either the integrated program or that. I've had 3 children go through the integrated preschool program. It's a great unified, inclusive classroom
Yep.
where, you know, children learn early, you know, how to be with all kinds of students. It's a great program, but it definitely needs a rate hike.
I agree.
We're right now not mandated to provide it. It's a great program that we're providing, but we can't run anything at loss.
Correct.
If it's running at loss, we can't continue to do this. Anybody has any other opinion on this? Everybody supports the rate increase on so we can get this recommendation over to the board.
Appreciate that.
All right, next item on the agenda is the monthly review of the attorney fees. This was, we had $15,700 from the Bush Law Company, and we had $116 only from Morzio this month. Anybody has any concerns that can be publicly discussed on this? All right,
I just want to compliment Bush because I really like the detail
Yeah.
in the.
excellent. Yes, you're right. Just to be able to see that right in the front page, the bill is really great. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the bill list. I do have a few questions that I haven't had the opportunity to ask Laura earlier, so I'm going to ask them right now. There is a $333,000 bill. This check number 06762. 06762, EAC Import. Is this related to Apple Card roofing?
Yes, that's part of the broad grants. Yes,
And EAC Import is our vendor that has
Yes.
worked on it?
yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Okay, this was the work that was already done, all right. There was a bill for COGAT testing for Riverside Insight, $16,700, $16,700, 06633. Is this a software that we pay for every year?
So, that is the COGA testing.
Okay,
We have, in the past couple of years, transitioned to like an online version of the test. We used to pay for print tests. The online version is actually cheaper than what we pay for
great.
the print test. So yeah, that's the
And
COGA
it's
testing.
yearly, it's a yearly cycle?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and we have our set grade levels we do assessment on, and we also do new students to the district and certain intervals as well.
Okay.
So, yep.
Heroes and Cool Kids, the amount is 5,500. I'm curious by the name, what exactly is this? Check 06615. Do you
Yep.
know what that is? Heroes and
It's
Cool-
actually excellent.
You go ahead.
Program. It's just a program, high school children, work, and they go down and they do presentations. And they also have an affiliation, what else do they do besides
Heroes and Cool
presentations?
Kids,
With
yeah.
Heroes and Cool Kids. So it's basically,
Oh, reading to the elementary school.
Second,
Yes.
second.
Oh, they give the book away, is that right?
Different
that's
in
a little
second.
different.
Okay.
Yeah, but what they do is, through their partnerships of working with the other children, they mirror the fact that the average child is the hero and the cool child and the cool kid. But it's actually a program, and it was started, oh my God, it was a really long time ago, so I remember it was Mr. Beaton, am I right?
Yeah, back in the day,
Wow, how many years would you say the program's been here?
as long as that, I mean.
What's the cost involved? What is the cost for? Are they using books or using supplies?
I think it's through the programs that are provided, the criteria.
Okay, so it's a standard program that.
It's a standard
not
program.
really our in-house program?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I can learn more about it later. There's a check for DI Group Architecture, it's for $8,600. I'm curious, is this part of the 6480? Is this, are we in the middle of some design studies, or is this also part of Apple Guard?
Right.
The amount is just 8,600.
Yeah, for the ESIM.
Well, It could,
She'll look it up, but it could have been also been EASA, because they were involved as well with the EASA
They
program.
were?
Yes,
Okay.
but she'll know, she sees it.
6480, right?
Yes, yes.
That is part of the Roxanne.
No, there you go. It's all about alcohol.
So was that, all right. And my final question on the bill list is for the last board meeting. I'm not sure if it's the last board meeting or which board meeting, but we're paying the township of Monroe $1,768. It's check 6469. Is this a cost of police service?
Could be, she'll let you know.
Why do we need it in that board? This is more than what we pay the lawyer for a board.
So the only time I ever have police is when it's requested by the president. So if President Fabiano requested, I do provide it.
Yes, that was for the board meeting, that we had in March, I would say, yeah, March.
And there has been police presence that has been requested. One officer will be there beginning at 6 PM, because that's when they come. I had originally said 7:15, but they said 6 o'clock. They did call today to confirm. So, and I did request
Or-
one police officer.
Monday,
For Monday.
May 5th.
Mhm.
I'm gonna bring this up in the board meeting, to
Sure.
find out what is the reasoning behind, because this cost, and I've already been, bringing this up,
Yes.
that our cost, the money that we pay to the township, we're just changing the pockets of the taxpayer.
But there is no way to get it without paying the fee. That is their requirement. I will, as, secondary to the cost, I have to just give a compliment. We work hand in hand, as you know, with Monroe Touch Police Department. They're wonderful. I reach out to the chief. It's immediate. His response is immediate. We're very fortunate that they accommodate us just 1, 2, 3. As far as whether or not the board thinks the cost should be spent, that's a separate conversation. But their fees are their fees, and we've had
So
this
this is
conversation.
a conversation for me to ask Ms.
That's
Fabian. You
correct.
guys are just doing what has been asked.
Absolutely.
Okay, and this is definitely the previous, the March board meeting.
That's correct. And
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else has any questions on the bill list?
No.
Go ahead, Ms. Fabian.
Just, one, you got the other one I had, 06281 for Everett LLC. I think it's like this.
0681.
Did it? 06281 for $2,602.
To do with, maintenance, custodial, a service, I think it's fire. Something, with the fire, alarm system, but I can double check on that.
Okay, because it says it was for the high school, so it might have been for the alarm system at the high school.
It is, yes, it's for the high school.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. Thank you.
That's it? Did you have any other questions?
No,
No, anybody else? All right. Do you want to speak to the annual contracts that we have? We have 3 annual contracts, right?
Yes, so we have one from, Bush Law Group. So that contract, they have no increase, same rates that we're paying now. This contract runs from May 5th, 25 through the 2026 rework meeting.
Which would be January of 2020.
Yeah, whenever, yeah, they dated it, they didn't date it, we don't know when rework meeting will be in case it gets delayed or anything, so it's through that meeting. And at that, we will have to appoint them or an intern for the town.
Which would be January. Okay, okay.
We don't normally have contracts that run like that, but,
yeah, that was my question. It's usually annual, right?
yeah.
Right, you usually do the July.
Full year.
Yeah.
That's how we.
Yeah, that's normally how it's done.
Yes.
So why does it have to be changed at the reorg meeting? Whose decision was that?
That's how they set their contract.
Yep.
Can we ask them to do it the way it's
Well,
always done?
we, just so you know, regarding the reorg, so because we didn't do a reorg and we're not required, we did confirm with the attorney, to do a reorg in January because of the way it worked, because you were on since April, and then it was moved to November. We had this conversation, actually, we had a phone conference,
We did.
Miss Allen and myself, and Dr. Lehman may have been present, and he started having this conversation about how all of these contracts had to be, and we realized that the concern that brings us, because as a school district, we run on the July 1st start, it's banks are different, we know that everything's different. So we said, is that legally required? Because we always follow the law. And he said, no. So we said, if that's not legally required, Ms. Allen was very strong, I will say, to say that will not work for us because that will cause
Yeah, it'll just take everything up.
beyond. So when he agreed that legally we could do it the way we do it, I guess he made the decision though, however, for his company, he wanted it done the way he suggested.
Yeah.
So that would be my explanation, which is, makes sense, right, based upon the conversation.
I guess just, and I appreciate them keeping their fees where they are. I guess my concern comes that this is a contract that puts us in the middle of the school year. If there was something where they needed to raise their rates and, you know, we're in a situation where like we have to either do that or
Look for a new law firm.
right in the middle of a school year.
Well, I guess business is business, but we have to also believe, we also have to believe that we have a very good professional relationship with them. They do an exceptional job for us. And we have to believe that they would be cognizant of the fact that we are an entity in which we do run to July. But I do believe that the reason why it was shared this way is because he was explaining, well, you have a new board and that's the way contracts should be. And as long as we said it'll be legal, like he said it was legal. So
Okay.
because it's legal, we left it. And I guess he made the decision to say, well, you have a new board. So therefore it should be January.
But there's no change.
There's no change, right? So we have to assume, we'll be hopeful that he would remain consistent
Hear that. Okay.
to the cost. But I hear exactly what you're saying, because we could be in the middle of the school year and then all of a sudden he could say, well, you know what, I want to go up $50 an hour, and we could say, well, we don't have that kind of money, and then we have to look for a new one.
I mean, I think it's great. I don't like, it's not that, and I don't think that he would do that. I just, with this economy, especially, you just never know what could happen, so I'd just be concerned.
And I'm making an assumption, I'm not speaking for him, I want to be clear. All I'm doing is sharing the conversation that we had about all contracts ending. He was saying it should all end December 31st. She was like, oh, no, that can't happen.
Would it be all right for me to make the ask that you can ask them one more time? That the board at the finance committee was concerned about the,
Would he be willing to be consistent and go with the
With
June
all of our
30th deadline as we follow?
Very well.
He might say absolutely.
Not even thought of it at the time that he
Right.
wrote the contract.
right.
But the explanation, I think he just did it that way because he thinks everything should be done that way.
All right.
Yeah, and
So we make the ask, and if it works, great, if not, we.
So on the agenda, you will see the date according to whatever his response is.
Yeah,
If that's okay
that
with the
makes sense.
committee.
That makes sense.
Okay?
And Ms. Ratner, to answer your question, it was fire panel replacement.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next contract, Phoenix Advisors remains the same. That's the financial advisor who we just used for. You said?
We use them a lot this
Yes.
time, yeah.
And the final one is for Samuel Klein and Company. They have an additional fee, that's the auditor, for auditing the capital project fund, which is new this year, which includes the ESIP project and the ROD grants, as well as a little slightly over a 2% increase in his basic fee.
Okay.
Okay.
Is everybody okay with that? 2% increase over the basic fee. Okay.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is a tax levy incentive. This is, on my ask, Ms. Allen is going to share a conversation that happened between the business office and the board leadership, and then it was shared with the rest of the board through a confidential because action had to be taken. But we do want to share what went on with relation to a tax levy incentive that Monroe qualified for.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Allen.
Yes, so this is a program where certain school districts who met the qualifications could request authority from the Commissioner of Education to increase expenditures to satisfy the thoroughness and efficiency standards. So we did meet those qualifications. However, to receive this aid from the fiscal year 26 Appropriations Act, we have to increase our tax levy for the majority of the increased expenditures. So in our case, the maximum expenditures that we could apply for this additional incentive program would have been $1,700,000. Of that, $1,696,000 would be an increase in the general fund tax levy, and only $84,000 would be supported by the tax levy incentive aid, which would be the state aid. So when we, calculated these amounts, we immediately said, no, this isn't going to work for us. So we did, as Ms. Bora said, we did speak with her and Fabiano and
I was there as well.
We agreed that that was not a good thing for our district, that had been reversed, and that we were getting 1.6 million in state aid.
Yeah.
A little bit of a different story, but, $84,000 is not.
Basically, this incentive allowed us to tax our community more. And the board understands that that is not what we've ever wanted to do. We've been fighting hard to get more money from the state, but we do not support increasing the tax levy cap. So it was pretty unanimous among the board members that we do not want to take advantage of this. So we did not take any action on it.
Correct.
Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is the GovDeals transportation update.
Yes, so we have two 2014 25-passenger vans that are ready to be retired. So we are just, asking for permission to sell them on GovDeals.
By all means, whatever money we can make. But you have any objection to this? All right, thank you for that update.
Yes.
The last item on the agenda, we may be running a few minutes over, Mr. Pura, I hope you don't mind. We did ask for, we asked the administration if they would support this committee, bringing to them a few questions from the community members on the budget that is going to be, passed in coming board meeting. There was interest from the community to learn more, but at the same time, reluctance to show up at board meetings for the public hearing. And so questions were shared. Generally, I had some community members reach out to me, Mrs. Ratner had some community members reach out to her, and I asked if this could be brought to the administration. And by discussing it in this committee meeting, we would be able to, in a recorded setting where the community members can go and watch at their own time, get answers to some of their questions. So the first question that I got was about tech, and I'm going to just share that here, and Dr. Lehman, you or Ms. Allen, whoever likes could reply to it. The community member wanted to know that why are we not providing Chromebooks to all of our students starting from second grade, like a lot of our neighboring districts do. Some even charge like a $35 annual fee. They want to know if this is related to budgeting.
Yeah, I would say there's multiple angles to it. Part of our strategic plan is to look into expanding a one-to-one initiative to middle school and eventually elementary level. I think what that looks like has to be defined, right? Are they bringing them home, or is it just one-to-one access, whether in the building? And that may vary depending on the age level and the grade level and or even the content. So there's some things that have to be settled. There is a financial piece in there, and I think that goes to the responsibility of us strategically planning out the acquisition and or the maintenance and refreshing of devices that we have in our care. Right now, we are on a cycle for our iPads, which is a consistent line item budget number for us. We do the big adoption each year, but it's spread out. Payments are spread out over multiple years with an offset of the sale of devices on the first year. Doing something similar so we have a consistent number, because when we think about budgeting at our scale, we're looking for consistent expenditures year over year. We really we put ourselves in a challenging spot when every couple years we have a ridiculous increase and or decrease because you're trying to compensate. So to answer this question specifically, it's a financial piece that we will certainly consider. It's in the plan to take a look at what it looks like down the road. But the $35 fee that other districts charge, I suspect that's probably an insurance kind of fee yearly. It's not a cost of device acquisition. There's no device that for 2 or 3 years could be acquired for $30 a year. So I think it's a little more complicated. It's not a purely financial piece, but finances are 100% a part of the conversation. And it's a long-term plan, and not a long-term, but it's a sequential, like we do that with curriculum. Content areas are staggered, so there is a consistent turnover and reacquisition of textbooks and or supplies, so we don't get a massive hit every once in a while. It's a consistent.
So it is partly tied into our budget and we're managing the best we can. Our goal is, if you were to go back and look at our technology plan, our goal is to get to 1:1 in the middle school, but in the school, maybe not as a take.
Correct.
And
Right.
And eventually to elementary schools, and high schoolers do have 1:1.
And it's already in there, so, you know, as part of, also, once again, we always talk about goals. So the board goals match the superintendent's goals, which match the strategic plan, because we want everything to be logical and have a progression. And it is also listed there, looking at what would be, and I think you said it best, what are the needs and how would we fill them? So absolutely, it's financially related, but it's not only financially related. So they've already had the surveys going on in the middle school, there's meetings going on in the middle school to look at technology. What does it look like? Should it be 2 carts for every classroom at the disposal? Would it absolutely be Chromebooks? Would it be Apple? We have an Apple environment in high school. Does that mean we want an Apple environment in middle school? Maybe yes, maybe no. So these are conversations, and it is part of our strategic plan, and our technology plan manages within the strategic plan. So it's all consistent with the board goals and the superintendent's goals. So everything's working in alignment.
Mr. Radman, do you want to take the question? We could probably do one by one, otherwise I don't want to hog the.
Okay, sure, we can
Yeah.
get together. So the first question, that I had asked was about, the surplus and how that works with regards to the budget. And so I just wanted to know if you could share a little bit more about how that factors.
So, excess surplus is calculated and certified by the auditor as part of the audit every year. It's the portion of surplus that is statutorily required to be included as a revenue source in the budget 2 years after. So the June 24 surplus would be in this current year budget that we're doing right now, 25, 26. It is the amount that exceeds the legally restricted, assigned, designated, or permitted as unassigned fund balance. So for example, we have fund balance restricted for unemployment, reserve for encumbrances, reserve for excess surplus, and capital reserve. The calculation is based on 2% of general fund expenditures as adjusted to determine the allowable unassigned fund balance. So again, over 2%, anything over 2% would go into excess surplus, would go into the budget as a revenue source to be used against the appropriations.
So it's used for different service, and this
It could
is
be-
different than the 2%
Yeah.
tax.
Because that's,
They have to be the
Even though
same
the
amount.
numbers are the same.
yeah,
We're not talking about the tax levy, we're talking about the excess money that stays back
Yeah.
when one budget year ends. Up to 2% can be put into our fund balances, and everything else has to become statutorily part of our, budget in the alternate cycle, not the immediate next cycle, but the alternate cycle.
yes, exactly right.
And I do want to state here that at this point, if we look at our older budget presentation,
Mhm.
we did have a time when year over year, our surplus used to be in double digits, 11 million, 15 million. We've seen those numbers. We are currently looking at numbers that are within 3 million, I think was this year. So, we have, because the 2% tax levy, which allows us to take the money from the taxpayer, is only helping us at this point. It's not over what our needs are. It is just about what our needs are. And so we don't have that much surplus. We managed with 2% using our surplus in years when our expenses were more, and the tax levy was allowing us to get less from the taxpayers. So it really we're just about managed. We don't have the luxury we had of a higher surplus.
And from what I'm understanding, that surplus would have had to be used towards appropriations anyway, because we
Always.
only keep a certain
Always.
That's right.
amount.
We
as
could not
an
have kept it all.
emergency.
Always, it always gets appropriated somewhere in the budget, yes.
I have
Yeah,
a
sure,
question.
sure.
So I just have some, because there's always misinformation spread around about the budget. And I just like to know, Dr. Chandler, the administration creates our budget, correct?
I'm sorry?
The budget's created by the administration.
Yeah,
They create the budget.
Correct.
Okay. And then could you just explain why the administration believes this budget is fiscally responsible? Like, why are we doing what we're doing this year with the budget?
So the only parameters that were really provided to me by the Board of Education was, if possible, not to have to go out for a question. We just call it a second question, but it's really not a second question, it's really the only question. So
Additional spending.
additional spending. So I kept on saying it obnoxiously. We put the cart before the horse intentionally, started super early, earlier than any other year we have ever, even when I was principal. So started early in the last 22 years to make sure that if we needed to go out for the question, we would know way in advance. Our goal was not to. Our goal was also to not cut any programs from children, not put any additional expenses on parents, like a pay to play or what have you, and make sure that every child was getting, I'm not gonna say thorough and efficient because we're way above, we don't ever want to be thorough and efficient, way above thorough and efficient without going out. What we were able to do, and I feel very proud of this budget, what we were able to do, we worked together. Laura is the brains financially. I'm the one that looks to see where we can maybe be a little bit more fiscally responsible in certain areas, right? We work together. Dr. Lehman comes in with the curriculum and we make sure the programs. I feel very confident that it is an extremely appropriate, fiscally responsible budget. We don't have any control over costs when it comes to any type of rateable or anything like that. All I know is that, did we believe that it was appropriate to go to the maximum 2%? Yes, we did, because we were very fortunate. You look to your right, you look to your left, all of our neighboring districts are cutting 20, 30, 40. Did we look at efficiency? Yes, we said it's not about cutting, it's about enrollment. If you no longer have 1,900 children in the middle school, 1,800 children, do you still need 6 teams per grade? No. If you no longer have 6 sections of 3rd grade, and you have 3 sections, and don't quote me, this is just, I'm just throwing this out for anecdotal reasons. Do you still need those same amount of teachers? No. We also worked as a team, so not only were we fiduciary responsible, but we were humanly responsible. We worked as a team to look at people's certifications and say, okay, we need 4 less teachers here, but they have an elementary cert and we have someone retiring, so we're gonna move them to the elementary school. So I'm very confident and I feel very good about the budget that we came up with. I don't know how else to say it.
I'm gonna piggyback on his question to ask, so we have not cut programs.
Correct.
So there was nothing that will come to us in the next few months saying, well, this was not budgeted.
If there was a program off the top of my head that they had 3 children in, or 2 children in.
Right, that's understandable, lack of interest.
100%, but there was no programs cut.
Did we add any new student programs to this
No,
budget, to your knowledge?
We do our natural ebb and, I always say ebb and flow, right?
Yeah.
So the things think about clubs.
Yeah.
We are phasing out 3 clubs, but we're adding clubs, right? So there's an ebb and flow.
But there was no additional cost.
No, but there's an ebb and flow of, say, digital tools. Some tools we phase out, some tools we add in. So,
So while we cannot, we didn't add an expense to new programs, we continuously develop our programs based on the need of,
within the parameters we have.
Right.
Yes.
Whatever demand and whatever the current industry trend needs,
To
and
keep
whatever.
up with the quality of the program as it exists, is there a cost? Yes. If you want to say it that way, I think that's what you're asking.
So we didn't have to increase any curriculum-based budget to add new programs.
Correct.
Within the same budget, we're going to be managing our programs, adding.
Yeah, I mean, we're spending more on textbooks this year than we did the previous year.
Yeah.
Right?
But the year before that, we spent even less.
Right. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. We certainly spent money in areas to maintain what we have. There are other areas that we didn't need to spend because we spent it last year, right? Or we'll plan to spend it next year. So,
Did you have a
Obviously, just to sort of add to this topic, and I think it was in one of the emails we got, is there going to be any increases of class sizes, or is there anything that's going to be changing with this budget in terms of that? Like, obviously, we know certain classes have to be larger, certain
Always,
classes have to be
correct.
smaller, but if you look at the same class from this type of class from this year to next year, is there going to be
Comparable.
any difference?
Be comparable.
I'm going to move on to the next question, which is related to the tax levy and the impact on the taxes,
The actual cost to the,
So the question was that have we budgeted to our maximum spending authority? And I can answer that we've always budgeted
Always.
to our maximum spending authority, which means that we've always gone up to 2% of tax levy for our school budget. the reason that is the right thing. And that's how we built that surplus years ago. And I understand that it's not always the right thing to do, but given in the present, economic environment, if we didn't do that today, we do need that. To continue the programs without any changes, we needed to budget to maximum spending authority. If we did not do that, whatever we did, if we went to say 1.5% tax levy, we would only have that as a baseline for next year. So we would always, if we don't do it this year, we cannot go to 2.5% next year. So what we lose this year
It's double loss.
is lost.
It's a loss, and we
forever.
can't add it on.
So if we've added 2 million to our budget through the tax levy this year, next year, that 2 million becomes part of our base on which we can add 2%. But if we decided to forego 1 million and then add 2%, that base has reduced by 1 million. So I'm not sure if I explained this right, but the current need of operating budget for the school district of 7,000 students mandated that we go up to 2% tax levy. The impact on personal taxes, now that's a rateables question. Do you want to speak to it and maybe we can discuss it? What changed between last year and this year? The rateables, right? Why did the impact of this budget become so significant this year versus last year?
So this year, well, I'll say last year was one of the highest ever increases in rateables. I think it was the third highest in 30 years. So this year was one of the very lowest increase in rateables, and that's a really big difference. So it was 70% less this year than last year. And since the rateables is a big, there's only two numbers in the equation for the tax rate, and that's the rateables and the school tax levy on a different calendar year than we, or different year than we are, but because that number, there was such a big decrease, that's a huge impact, and that is really, there's the reason the tax rate.
And completely out of our control.
It is
So
completely out of
rateables is the total assessed value,
Yes.
taxable assessed value of the town, which does not have any, we don't have any bearing
No.
on the rateables.
No.
Rateables are for the town at a town level, and I wouldn't even say the township government has any, control on it because
No.
it depends on the taxable assets in the town.
So things close, and
And
things, that's what it is, when things
last
close
year-
within a certain time
Right.
frame. It was the highest it was in 30,
Yeah,
third
last year
highest.
there was a big warehouse, used Amazon maybe, a big warehouse that
Yes.
opened up, and that was.
Brought the
reason
rateables really
it brought
high.
it so high.
So this year has been a historically low year in rateables, and as a result, that formula, we've gone to 2%, but that's the only thing we control.
Every year.
The rateables went high, the two parts of the formula changed, and so the impact on community taxes is much higher this year. Last year, despite the fact that we went out to a question, which means we went over the 2% levy, the impact to taxpayers was one of the lowest in history. Like, had we not gone out of out to that question, the impact to taxpayers would have been negative. They would have gotten
Money
paid
back.
less in school taxes than they did because of the question. So it's beyond our control.
And
So-
I think the point to say, let me just say, the reason why it also looks so drastic is because this is one of the lowest years of bringing in money.
Right.
Last year was one of the highest, so it wasn't even an average. If it was equal, like, remember we talked about the 105,000 versus 108, it's $3,000. So when if we would have had last year, let's say it would have been an average year, you wouldn't have been looking at a difference of 100 and something to 20 something. You might have been looking at a difference of 80 something to 120 to 160. And I think that it's such a drastic difference because it was super high
And then I'm super.
and super low. I just wanted to say that.
$100 at least, impact, that rateable is about $100 impact. So of the 161, and so
Okay.
that's.
Oh, so that's what I said, 50 to, yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly correct.
So just so I understand this, so last year, the board went for the question for $2 million.
Yeah.
Now we keep that 2 million
It
moving
became
forward.
part of a base budget.
And that money, but where does that money come from every year now? Like, last year, we got a lot of questions.
Oh, it becomes
How do,
part of,
how do we, or how do we keep it? Like,
So that's
2 million?
part of our tax that we get, that we get from the township now,
So that may raise it a little because every year
So it
that
allowed us-
keep the 2 million.
Right, so instead of
Okay.
last year's budget being, and I might not be right in my numbers, instead of being $147 million, it became $149.7 million.
And you start-
That became our target.
Correct. And
So we
that
put the
stays
2%
there.
on 149 instead of.
Yeah, it doesn't go back.
It doesn't go back, yeah.
So then, basically, in order for us not to cut staff, it's the tax rateable, the tax levy that determine the final tax increases.
That's correct. It's completely out of our
It's
control.
out of our.
The impact on the taxpayers,
Yeah,
the only thing we control is going to the 2% tax levy. And like we just shared today, we had the opportunity to go up on that tax levy because we qualified for that incentive.
Mhm.
We rejected that as a board.
This would have cost the taxpayer more money.
We're staying to the 2%, but we've always done the 2%. We've always gone to the maximum spending authority. Because it's to keep
so we're
being
being
the
as
highest
fiscally
rated
responsible.
contractual raises.
There's no
We
other way
cannot
around
do
it.
with less than 2%. You want to take your next question?
Sure, unless, and
We have a lot more, because.
Yeah,
I
just two more.
I had two.
I had one. Yeah,
Right, so, and one of mine is pretty quick, but, so the Jamesburg tuition, and this is something that had come up, I think briefly at the meeting as well. I noticed like that the amount that we get over the last several years has been like the same. But then when I looked at the enrollment has gone up. So, well, obviously never wanting to charge, more than we're supposed to. I was curious if there's a reason, like, I guess how that's been working.
Yeah, so we budget basically, 275 students, at a rate of 15,500. And after the year's over, after the audit is done, we go and we do a calculation we have to do for the submitted state, based on using audited numbers, to find out the actual cost, per pupil. And we do it by the high school, the middle school, and elementary school. So we know that the cost at the high school per pupil is, so we take that cost and we multiply it by, we get the actual number of Jamesburg students that we had, that were enrolled, for the school year, so we can get the actual cost, of the tuition and compare it to what was budgeted and what was actually paid by Jamesburg. And if there's a difference, if they overpaid us, we would take it off of, there's a small tab that's, that would take it off of that, and vice versa, so when that's done, if there's a difference, if we owe them money, we would pay them, if they owe us money, they would pay us after the end, but every year we have to calculate this to see what the actual cost is, so whatever's budgeted, it will not be the exact same, that's why.
Okay, so it's being correct.
Yeah.
That's something we are required to do.
Well, you brought up a good point earlier, not in the meeting, we were chatting earlier. We see these tuition enrollment corrections this time of year all the time from
On the
our,
bill list, you see them all the
Right.
time.
Oh.
The prior year, to different schools where we have adjustments, the prior years.
Would we see it on the
That's-
bill list if it's, we're
No,
not
but
part
no,
of?
what Dr. Lehman is saying is that's what other schools,
Other
private schools, when we pay
Oh,
tuition
right.
to them and they get audited, they, 2 years later, they're going to send us either a bill or a check for the adjusted amount. Because they look at their actual, what the actual amounts were per the audit.
so right now, we don't see that for Jamesburg because they are overpaying their tuition. They're
Got
just taking off the balance.
Okay,
Once, and I don't want to speak for you necessarily, Laura, but once everything's even Steven,
Mhm.
we will go through the same process that we do with our
Private
our
schools.
Private schools.
Yeah.
So where we budget a fixed number, if tuition's under, then we would balance the books for them on the way back because they've overpaid us. If their tuition's over what we budgeted,
They'll
they
give
would
us a
cut
check.
us a check to balance our book.
all
But
right.
you're not seeing it now because there's that small tab left, so they're utilizing whatever monies
But
is
it's
over to pay down that tab.
Okay,
Does that make sense? And again,
Yeah.
it's the standard process we do
Yeah.
with all of our private schools,
right, that,
district placements.
I appreciate that.
One of the conversations that stemmed out of this Jamesburg tuition conversation was related to state aid. And myself, Ms. Ratner, and Ms. Allen had this preliminary conversation based off of that question, was that when we get state aid, it's based on the residents of Monroe. So we have set, however many students are residents of Monroe, that aid is for them. the residents of Jamesburg have rate paid for them. And I might not be able to explain this correctly, but our per pupil tuition cost for Monroe that we charge Jamesburg is based on the aid that we're getting. We are not factoring in any aid that the Jamesburg students are getting. So,
Because James is paid.
Yeah, we can't charge tuition based on
Yes.
their aid, it's based on the actual cost to educate. It's-
right, so.
Not how much money they get, it's how much money it costs us.
Right. How much money it costs us to educate Monroe students, Jamesburg students, it's the same, right? And the aid that we're getting is just for Monroe. So the one that's coming just for the Monroe students is getting split on all of our high school students. So, and this is not something that we know for definitive. This is a conversation that just started today that we need to explore more on. So my suggestion to Ms. Allen was that we need to understand how it works. When Jamesburg gets its aid, like when Monroe gets its aid, it's split between the students elementary through high school. When Jamesburg gets its aid, it's split through students elementary through high school. But it's not part of your tuition because the tuition is the same. So I don't know.
But that comes out of like it's like our budget, our money, and we pay for their education. So it's the cost to educate them here, we pay them for, can I take a quick, just because I.
I know, and this would
And I-
be a few.
and I look at- When we look at the amount, and maybe this is a discussion for, because we don't need
Future.
it next year, but when we look at that.
7 o'clock.
There's no.
That we're
implication to this
using
budget.
to figure out how much we can do here. You know, it just being like, it might be good to see how much we are spending per pupil versus how much is being spent per pupil, like in, like
Agreed.
in Jamesburg.
Yeah, I,
So
Just
we
to see, like,
follow up on
the-
this
yeah,
with the
program.
future
maybe
agenda.
let's have another conversation about this, but
This committee can
I'm
discuss
seeing-
it and we could probably get more information from your BA and our BA and understand what, just to clarify how it works, like where is it accounted for? But again, no implications on this budget. The last question that I had was that have we, under budgeted, Falcon Care and ECE? And if yes, why?
Yeah, we budget conservatively for the transfer of surplus from these two programs, for being fiscally responsible. We don't want to, overstate the revenues, and then not.
End up in a deficit.
And, yeah, because that would.
So
Maybe
it's pretty
because of my-
standard to what we've done in previous years?
Yes, and based on what the audit showed, the combined, profit of the $250,000, this is very appropriate, what we are budgeting.
Okay. Okay, that was the
I
answer to
would-
that question. Okay.
Budget more than that.
Okay, that was the answer to that question. Well, that's all for tonight's committee meeting. We did try to address as many questions as we could get. If you have any more, please email it to the administration before the next board meeting or show up for the public hearing in the board meeting. There will be a detailed presentation on the taxable, rateable, sorry, not taxable, that day for further understanding. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
This concludes the finance committee.